October 1907, New York City trembles. Banks are collapsing. The stock market is crashing. Crowds line the streets, desperate to pull their money before it vanishes. And at the center of the chaos, one man holds the power to save or destroy the American economy. His name is J.P. Morgan. And this is how one banker became more powerful than the President of the United States. It starts with greed. The United Copper Company, a small mining firm with big ambitions, buy up every available share, squeeze out short sellers, and force the price to skyrocket. But when the scheme collapses, everything unravels. The price of United Copper freefalls overnight. Investors are ruined. Banks that backed the Heinz's panic. The contagion spreads like wildfire. One of the biggest institutions in New York, the Knickerbocker Trust Company, faces a deadly run. Depositors rush in, demanding their savings. In a matter of hours, the vaults are empty. Trust in the entire financial system evaporates. Wall Street is in chaos. Stocks plummet, interest rates soar. The American economy is seconds from total collapse. And all eyes turn to one man, John Pierpont Morgan. But who is this man? J.P. Morgan wasn't born poor. He was born in 1837 in Hartford, Connecticut, into a family that already understood the language of money. His father, Junius Spencer Morgan, was an international banker, disciplined, ambitious, and deeply connected to London's financial elite. From a young age, JP was trained not just to make money, but to control it. He studied mathematics and economics in Switzerland, mastered accounting in London, and joined his father's firm before he turned 25. But JP was different. He wasn't just another banker chasing profits. He was obsessed with power, precision, and order. He believed chaos was the enemy of progress. And in 1907, chaos had arrived on Wall Street. As the panic spreads, America's biggest financiers scramble. Banks refuse to lend to one another. Corporations can't make payroll. Even the U.S. Treasury doesn't have enough liquidity to intervene. The government is powerless. President Theodore Roosevelt is hundreds of miles away. There's no central bank, no Federal Reserve to stabilize the system. So the nation turns to the only man capable of saving it. Not a politician, not a general, but a banker, J.P. Morgan. Morgan is 70 years old, stern, silver-haired, with piercing eyes and a nose like a hawk's beak. He moves slowly but commands absolute authority. He calls the city's top financiers to his library at 23 Wall Street, his private fortress. One by one they enter, the doors close. No one leaves until Morgan decides the fate of America. He studies the ledgers of every struggling bank, every trust company on the brink. He decides who will live and who will die. To the Knickerbocker Trust, he says, let it fail. But for others, he demands unity. He forces rival bankers to pool their reserves. He personally guarantees millions in emergency loans. In a time when the government is helpless, J.P. Morgan becomes America's central bank. The climax of the crisis comes late one night. A major brokerage firm, Moore & Schlie, is about to collapse. If it fails, the entire market could go with it. Morgan summons the heads of every major bank to his home. He locks them inside his library, literally locks the doors. He tells them, no one leaves until we find a solution. Hours pass. Midnight, then 2 a.m. Finally, he emerges with a plan. The banks will collectively inject cash to stabilize the market. By dawn, the deal is done. The panic begins to ease. Wall Street reopens. Confidence returns. J.P. Morgan has done what no government could. He has stopped a financial collapse with sheer willpower. The nation breathes again, but the cost is clear. One man now controls the heartbeat of the American economy. Morgan's dominance doesn't stop with the crisis. He owns massive stakes in the railroads, in General Electric, in U.S. Steel, the first billion-dollar corporation in history. When J.P. Morgan speaks, presidents listen. But his power frightens people. Critics call him a monopoly, a puppet master, even a king without a crown. In response, Congress begins investigating Wall Street's influence. The result? The creation of the Federal Reserve in 1913, an institution designed to ensure that no single man could ever again hold such financial power. Ironically, the system we rely on today, the Fed, was born from Morgan's private intervention in 1907. But who was J.P. Morgan really? To his friends, he was generous and loyal. To his rivals, ruthless and terrifying. He loved art, collecting masterpieces that now fill museums. Yet he had no patience for small talk, laughter, or sentiment. He once said, "The first thing is character, before money or anything else," and he lived by it. He judged men not by wealth, but by integrity. and expected absolute loyalty in return. Morgan's face, famously disfigured by a skin condition, gave him an intimidating presence. Reporters rarely photographed him without his consent. But behind the stern exterior was a man who believed in stability above all else. To him, money wasn't just currency, it was control. And control meant order in a chaotic world. When J.P. Morgan died in 1913, the world paused. His fortune was enormous, but his true legacy wasn't measured in dollars. It was in the system he helped build, and the power he wielded when no one else could. He proved that leadership could come from the private sector, not just government. But he also proved the danger of unchecked influence. Some historians call him a hero, others, a tyrant. But either way, J.P. Morgan changed America forever. Without him, the Panic of 1907 might have destroyed the U.S. financial system. With him, it was reborn. So, the next time you hear about the Federal Reserve setting interest rates or Wall Street swinging between fear and greed, remember this moment in history, a time when one man in a dark library decided the fate of a nation. J.P. Morgan didn't just save the banks. He saved America by becoming the banker who replaced the president. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe for more deep dives into the powerful figures who shaped our modern world. Because sometimes, the most powerful people aren't in government, they're in finance.